I don't even think I've even hit even close to my potential yet. So I just think there's so much left in my tank, and that's what excites me.
Sophie Cunningham just broke her silence. And what she said about Caitlin Clark has everyone talking.
Drafted, and when I got drafted, they're like, "Oh, what was like your signing bonus?" And I'm like, "Signing bonus?" I was like, "We got a hat and a T-shirt that said WNBA draft." I'm like, "Oh, we got 10 million." I was like, "Well, welcome to the women's side."
The Indiana Fever are already making waves, and Sophie Cunningham's latest comments have only added fuel to the fire, from playing behind legends in Phoenix to teaming up with one of the most talked about rookies in WNBA history. Sophie's transition has been nothing short of dramatic. But what did she actually say about Caitlin Clark, and why is this new footage going viral now? Let's get into it all right. Let's talk about something that's been making waves in the WNBA world. Sophie Cunningham, one of the toughest non-nonsense players in the league, just made some bold comments about Caitlin Clark, and the internet is eating it up. If you haven't been paying attention, trust me, this is something you don't want to miss.
When it comes to who inspired me, I do think that it was my mom and my aunt, my grandma. They're just strong, powerful females who have made a huge impact on, raising other strong, powerful females in the world. And I think that was a huge inspiration. But honestly, there's just not a lot of people who are pros who were able to maybe give these girls here in the Midwest a platform. And so that's I had no one really to look up to when it came to professional basketball or professional sports here in the Midwest. And so I always just knew that I wanted to be that somebody. And so once I put my mind to something, I kind of do it. And so now,
if you know anything about Sophie Cunningham, you know she doesn't hold back. She speaks her mind. She plays with a chip on her shoulder. And she's got that enforcer mentality that makes her both loved and hated depending on which team you root for. But what she just said about Caitlin Clark, it wasn't trash talk, it wasn't criticism. It was something way more interesting. Great
shooters in our league, and you see that we don't really have any, there's some, but there's not a lot of traditional post players anymore. Like, everyone can shoot. And if you can't shoot, it's weird that you can't shoot. And so I think you see, Diana Taurasi, she was able to shoot that ball from far out. Now you have Caitlin Clark shooting logo threes. And I just think, that's Steph Curry type stuff. And if the females can show that, then I don't know if it's going to be as exciting as a dunk, but we're also not done. Like, we know that. But man,
Before we dive into the specifics of what Sophie said, let's set the scene here. Sophie just joined the Indiana Fever, a team that's already buzzing because of the arrival of one of the most talked about rookies in basketball history, Caitlin Clark. And let's be real, Caitlin has been the center of attention for a while now, from breaking records in college to bringing insane viewership numbers to women's basketball. She's already a generational talent before even playing a single WNBA game. But what happens when you bring in a player like Sophie, someone who has been grinding in this league for years, waiting for her moment, a player who spent her career in Phoenix behind the legendary Diana Taurasi, knowing that as long as DT was around, she wasn't going to get the minutes. She truly wanted. Sophie was patient, but let's not get it twisted, she was hungry. And now that she's with the Fever, she finally has a shot to prove just how much of a problem she can be. So when Sophie sat down for this interview, a lot of people expected her to talk about her journey, the move to Indiana, and what's next for her. And she did, but then came the part that made headlines. She was asked about Caitlin Clark, and she didn't just give the usual, "She's a great player, I'm excited to play with her" response. No, Sophie went all, and she talked about how she actually tried recruiting Caitlin Clark to Phoenix before the draft. Imagine that for a second. Sophie Cunningham was out here trying to get Caitlin on her squad, trying to build something dangerous in the desert. But obviously that didn't happen. Instead, Caitlin ended up with the Fever, and in a wild twist of fate, so did Sophie. Now here's where things get interesting. Sophie didn't just say she was happy to be playing with Caitlin. She took it a step further. She said, and I quote, "I told the people upstairs, I'll be her Sabrina Carpenter. If she's Taylor Swift." Pause. That right there, that's a statement for those who might not get the reference. Sabrina Carpenter has been closely associated with Taylor Swift, often performing as her opener during concerts and being seen as someone who perfectly complements Taylor's superstar presence. What Sophie is saying here is simple. She knows Caitlin Clark is the headliner, the mega star, the one everyone's eyes will be on, and she's totally fine with that. In fact, She's embracing it. She's ready to play that role, ready to be Caitlyn's sharpshooting, battle-hardened sidekick. And that's the part that got people talking, because let's be real, there are plenty of players in this league who would not be comfortable taking that kind of supporting role. There are plenty of veterans who might not love the idea of a rookie getting all the attention, all the camera time, all the headlines. But Sophie, she's here for it. That tells you a lot about the kind of player she is. She's not caught up in ego. She's not worried about being the face of the franchise. She just wants to win. And she believes Caitlin Clark is going to help her do that. But Sophie didn't stop there. She went on to talk about what makes Caitlin special, not just as a player, but as a person. She acknowledged the insane amount of pressure Caitlin is under, the constant spotlight, the expectations that would crush most people. And yet, according to Sophie, Caitlin handles it gracefully. That's a big compliment coming from someone who has seen the ups and downs of this league, who has played with and against some of the best. This wasn't just Sophie throwing out some generic praise. This was her letting people know Caitlin Clark isn't just hype. She's a real deal. And she's ready to go to battle alongside her now. Let's take a step back and think about what this means for the Fever. Indiana was already looking like one of the most intriguing teams heading into this season. But with Sophie Cunningham in the mix, things just got even more interesting. Because if you've watched Sophie play, you know exactly what she brings to the table. She's tough. She's physical, she's fearless, and when it comes to three-point shooting, she's a problem. And that's where this gets fun, because you know who else is a problem from deep. Caitlin Clark. You see where I'm going with this. The Fever just became one of the most dangerous three-point shooting teams in the league. You've got Caitlin, who can pull up from anywhere on the court. You've got Sophie, who has one of the deadliest catch and shoot strokes in the game. And let's not forget Elia, Boston in the paint, demanding attention and kicking it out to shooters when the defense collapses. This isn't just about Caitlin Clark. This is about the perfect storm forming in Indiana. And let's be honest, Caitlin Clark is used to playing with the ball in her hands. She's used to running the show, but the WNBA is a different beast. She's going to have to adapt, learn how to play with teammates who have been in this league longer than her. That's where someone like Sophie Cunningham comes. And she's the kind of player who can make Caitlin's transition smoother. She knows how to find her spots, how to space the floor, how to knock down shots when Caitlin kicks the ball out to her. And the best part, they like each other. That chemistry matters. It's not just about talent. It's about trust. When Caitlin swings that extra pass, she needs to know that the player on the receiving end is going to drain that shot. Not with Sophie. That confidence is already there. So let's go back to the viral moment to Sabrina Carpenter to Caitlin's Taylor Swift line. Some people took it as Sophie playing second fiddle, as if she's settling for being in the background. But that's not what's happening here. This is a player who understands roles. This is a player who knows that championships aren't won by one superstar. They're won by teams that fit together. Sophie isn't looking to outshine Caitlin Clark. She's looking to win. And if this Fever team plays their cards right, they might just shock a lot of people. Now, what's crazy is that this is only the beginning. The season hasn't even started yet, and we're already seeing how this team is clicking behind the scenes. We're seeing the respect, the excitement, the potential. If this is what they're saying, now imagine what's going to happen when they start lighting teams up on the court. And let's be clear, this isn't just hype. The numbers back it up. Sophie Cunningham is already one of the best shooters in the league. Caitlin Clark, she's coming in with a reputation as one of the best shooters ever. Combine that with a team that is built to let them let it fly. Man, defenses better be ready. And that, my friends, is why Sophie Cunningham's comments are so important. This isn't just a fun soundbite. This is the start of something big. All right, let's dive even deeper into this wild situation and what it means for the WNBA, because trust me, this Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark connection is way bigger than just one viral comment. We're talking about a potential game-changing shift in the league. And if you think the Fever or just another rebuilding team, you're about to see things from a whole new perspective. So let's pick up right where we left off. Sophie Cunningham just made it clear she's not here to be the star, she's here to win. And in a league where egos can clash and chemistry can make or break a team, that kind of mindset is invaluable Caitlin Clark is stepping into one of the biggest spotlights in WNBA history. Expectations are through the roof. Everyone wants to see if she can live up to the hype, if she can dominate the pros the same way she did in college. But here's the thing, no rookie, no matter how talented, can do it alone. Enter Sophie Cunningham. Let's talk about why this partnership is so perfect. Because on paper it might seem like Caitlin Clark is the one bringing all the firepower to Indiana, but that's not the full story. Sophie isn't just some role player tagging along for the ride. She's a key piece to making sure Caitlin succeeds at the highest level. First off, let's talk about spacing. The WNBA is a different beast compared to college basketball. Defenses are smarter, rotations are tighter, and physicality is turned up to 100. Caitlin isn't going to be able to just waltz in and dominate the same way she did at Iowa, at least not without some serious adjustments. That's where Sophie comes in. When you have multiple shooters on the floor, defenses have to respect them. They can't just swarm Caitlin the way college teams did. Because if they do, guess what? That ball is getting kicked out to Sophie, and she's burying that three, and once teams start hesitating, leaving just a little more space for Caitlin to operate, that's when she really starts cooking. It's the classic Steph Curry effect. When you have elite shooters, defenses are forced to pick their poison. Leave Sophie open, she'll make you pay. Stick too close to her. Now Caitlin has room to work. It's a nightmare scenario for defenders, and the Fever are going to take full advantage of it. But let's go beyond the X's and O's, because one of the biggest factors in a rookie's success isn't just talent, it's mentorship. And while Sophie isn't exactly a 10-year vet, she's been through the grind of the WNBA. She's played alongside legends. She's learned from the best. She knows what it takes to survive in this league, and she's got the kind of experience that Caitlin will need in her corner. And let's be real, Sophie isn't afraid of anybody. She plays with a chip on her shoulder. She brings that enforcer mentality. And with Caitlin stepping into a league where she's already got a target on her back, having someone like Sophie on her team, that's a big deal. Think about it. Caitlin Clark is coming in as the most hyped player in years. She's breaking viewership records. She's bringing more attention to the WNBA than ever before. And you know that means defenders are going to test her. She's going to take some hard fouls. She's going to get chirped, and she's going to have nights where she's frustrated. But now she's got Sophie Cunningham in her corner. And if you've ever seen Sophie play, you know she's not going to let anyone push her teammate around. Remember how Draymond Green always had Steph Curry's back with the Warriors. That's exactly what Sophie can be for Caitlin. She's the one who's going to set the tone, bring the energy, and make sure nobody disrespects their squad. But here's where things get really interesting, because Sophie didn't just talk about Caitlin in that interview. She made some huge points about the state of the WNBA and how things are changing. She straight up said that this new rookie class isn't just hype. It's a turning point. For years, the WNBA has had elite talent, but it never quite got the national spotlight. Players like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Candace Parker, absolute legends. But they never had the massive media push that Caitlin Clark is bringing right now. And Sophie isn't bitter about that. She's embracing it. She called out the people who act like Caitlin is the first great player in women's basketball, saying the talent has always been there. And she's right, but what's different now, people are actually watching. And that's a game changer, because now, with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and the rest of this insane rookie class, more eyes are on the WNBA than ever before. And players like Sophie Cunningham know what that means. It means more opportunities, more money, more respect. She even made the point that some people in the league might feel some type of way about Caitlin getting all this attention. And let's be real, that's true. There are players who have been grinding in the WNBA for years, never getting the same level of exposure, and suddenly this rookie comes in and she's everywhere. But Sophie, she sees the bigger picture. She knows this isn't just about one player, it's about lifting the entire league. That's why she's so excited to be part of this. She doesn't see Caitlin as competition, she sees her as a catalyst. And when you have that kind of mindset on a team, that's when special things happen. Now, let's talk expectations. Because after hearing Sophie talk, it's clear this Fever team isn't just here to compete, they're here to make a statement. Some people still see Indiana as a rebuilding team. But let's be honest, that narrative is dead. They've got a generational shooter in Caitlin Clark. They've got a dominant post presence in Aaliyah Boston. They've got an experienced battle-tested shooter in Sophie Cunningham. This team isn't just young and exciting, they're dangerous. And if you think they're just going to be a fun highlight reel team without actually winning games, you might be in for a surprise. Sophie flat out said it. She's here to help Caitlin reach her potential. She's here to be the perfect complement to her game. And when you put players together who genuinely want to see each other succeed, that's when you get something special. But let's be real, this isn't going to be easy. Caitlin is going to have growing pains. She's going to have nights where she struggles. The Fever are still a young team, and they're going to take some hits along the way. But with Sophie in her corner, with a team that believes in what they're building, man, this is going to be fun to watch. So what do you think? Will Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark become the WNBA's deadliest shooting duo? Can Indiana make a serious run for the title this year? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more WNBA updates, hot takes, and breaking news. We're covering everything from Caitlin Clark's rise to the Fever's playoff push, so turn on those post notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.